All right, we're live. It's the Android Headline Show. This is episode 61. We are broadcasting tonight's Thursday, May 29th. My name's Jeremiah. I'm joined tonight by Nick and Alex from the site. You guys want to say what's up?
What's up, everyone?
Evening, guys.
And then we've got a special treat tonight, man. We're super excited. We've got Carson Brown with us from ClickCases.
How you doing, guys?
Carson, it's so awesome to have you with us tonight, man. We're excited about what you guys are doing with the ClickCases. If you're not familiar with that, just a little bit of background on this. The ClickCases, it's an NFC case where basically you can set 3 buttons to do whatever you want on your phone, all based off NFC. It's a really, really cool concept. So, Carson, you want to? I'll just kind of turn it over to you, man. You want to tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so kind of from the outset, we just thought that NFC was really cool, and people stopped using the individual tags. Kind of, the use of those really went down, and we kind of had the opportunity to make something that kind of a lot of us already buy. It was like, a lot of us buy these cases, and they're so overpriced. Like, how come there's no technology in them? And we were kind of in the position to kind of do something about it. And it was like, okay, let's make something interactive. Let's make a case which can kind of enhance the experience of the phone.
And that concept is really interesting to me. You mentioned this before we kicked off the show tonight. Nobody else has really tried this or done anything with NFC. Like you said, people are using the tags, and some people are really into that and have tags everywhere, and most people just, it's kind of fizzled out, are not really using that NFC functionality. So these ClickCases, it can add a lot of extra functionality. So I thought it's a really, really cool concept, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's quite funny because not only have you got solutions with BLE as well now, where you're not having to reach out and touch things with your phone, and kind of making an NFC device that was like native to your device. Like, you don't need to reach out or anything, and you can use Tasker. We've got Tasker integration now, so you can use it to make something contextual if you really wanted to. If you want to make a button for while you're in your kitchen and you're cooking, just do it. It's really open to that.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you mentioned Tasker integration too. I'm a big fan of Tasker. So the ClickCases now are available. Let's see, there's 5 different colors. You guys are rolling them out for what phones now?
Let's see if I can get these all right. Okay, so we have the LG G2, the Moto X, the Samsung S3, S4, S5, and Note 3. And I think the Nexus 5. How could I forget my own phone? The Nexus 5, yeah.
It's always the one that is right in front of you that slips your mind.
Yeah.
So cool. And I mean, the Kickstarter's going great. You guys just rolled that out. You still got 20 days left to go. You've got, let's see, I'm looking at it now, 690 backers, and you're almost halfway to goal.
Yeah, our numbers are really getting up there. I think it's just really spreading the word to the community, and we're happy. Halfway there. We've got a good few weeks to go, so we're really optimistic.
And you have good reason to be, man. So tell me a little bit about. You mentioned kind of briefly looking at NFC and wanting to get into that, but tell me about kind of how this all came together for you two.
Oh, wow. This is kind of weird. Actually, our team is all recent graduates. Kind of all 3 of us out of various universities in the UK, and we just kind of got together, and as one computer scientist, an engineer, and a guy who's got background in like finance and accounting, and we were like, okay, let's make a business. And you have an Android device in your hand, and you kind of have all the scope to do something cool. It really just fell into place, to be honest. That's really the truth. When it came to NFC, it was really about most NFC is kind of a single tag device, so it's always on. And kind of the first thing was trying to say, oh, how can we switch it? How can we make something which you can turn on and off? And then there's a challenge of kind of integrating that into the various different phones, and that's been really interesting, especially because you have your S4, your S4 Mini, your S4 Active. Each device has its own breakdown. And it's complicated things to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that before too, kind of that fragmentation aspect. It's still, I mean, from a developer point of view, it's still an issue. Google's done a lot to kind of iron out the fragmentation issues and get everybody on the consumer side up to at least Android 4.0 or higher. But when you're talking about all the different devices, all the different there's a lot of different moving parts and just little things that the code's just a little bit different here and there. And so
Yeah.
what has that been like, kind of developing that for you?
I think it's definitely been an interesting one. You even devices like the HTC One, which I spent a lot of time over the past 3 or 4 days, in the lab just banging my head up against the wall because some of them have metal enclosures, and then you have different variants where like maybe your Verizon version is not the same as the rest of them, and it complicates things a bit. I think dealing on a digital side wasn't too bad. Like you said, Android has definitely sorted that out quite a bit. That wasn't too much of a pain. But as far as hardware, not that many people develop hardware Android first, and there are difficulties is kind of explained a little bit as to why. It's a task. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. But it's appreciated. I mean, these are the kind of cool things. You mentioned Tasker, being so powerful. These ideas like the click case really tap into what Android has to offer and what these devices bring, and it's a great concept. And you guys are, I love that story of just a group of people that were passionate about something and came together kind of and just organically put this together, man. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's we're excited, and we've messaged our backers and really trying to spread the word. And anyone who's willing to check it out, tell your friends. Justclick.com, or search Click CLIQ on Kickstarter. It's gonna need we need your support. We need your questions more than anything. So if people have any questions for us, things we've thought about, anything random, I'm here to answer them, definitely.
Yeah, and we've got the Q&A up tonight, so you can pop your questions in there if you've got any questions for Carson. Alex or Nick, do you guys have any thoughts, questions?
Well, there was one question. It might sound kind of stupid, but isn't the NFC chip like in different spots on different phones? Because I know on the Moto X it's like in the middle. I forget where it's at on G2 because I don't use that much on there. Does the case have to be in contact with the NFC chip?
Okay, that's a very good question. Yes, it is in different places on various phones, unfortunately. So what it meant is that we essentially had to design kind of a module which is going to satisfy the majority of the phones. So that's kind of why, kind of coming out the bat, we didn't just say, oh, we can cover everything. It was kind of like a much more limited, this device and that device. Like, on your Moto X, it is very central. On the G2, it's slightly higher, but also quite central. Whereas phones like your Sonys and HTCs, it's actually at the top. Why there's no standard for it, I have no clue, but it's just the way it is.
And we're looking at August for the Kickstarter, or people to kick back the project to get their cases, right?
Yes. August is definitely our delivery date goal, and we definitely think we can make that happen. We spent quite a few months, on the phones of both suppliers in the U.S. and in the Far East at the same time, trying to get everything lined up. So yeah, we're raring to go, to be honest.
And for people that don't back it, do you know when it'll be available for them, or you haven't gotten that far yet?
We're taking it as it goes. We haven't gone quite that far yet, but it should be. We should be opening it to the general public quite soon after, and we've had a lot of really good feedback on our survey as to like the phones which we're not covering quite yet, and I think one you guys are probably going to talk about later tonight, the G3 is going to be really high on that list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, and that was going to be a question I asked, was just future devices and that sort of thing. I don't know if you had an idea for design pipelines, or if you wanted to have the cases ready when the phone came out for new ones. Obviously, it's not going to be for the G3 since it comes out in a month and you're not going to be ready till at least August. But going forward,
yeah, it's The only challenge that we have from our perspective is, as a small startup, is getting a hold of the devices like now. Like we don't have a hands-on with the G3, and unfortunately what that means is we can't test and see kind of what zones of the device have NFC, and the knock-on effects for us are huge. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, like, usually, the case guys, a lot of them get a hold of, I guess, kind of leaked, CAD drawings or models of the phones before the general public sees them. In our case, we actually kind of need to know what's going on the electronic side as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how we can handle that. Yeah, it's a really good question.
And then, is there any one thing in particular while you guys have done testing that you've come up with? Like, you say you have Tasker integration, so did you have one thing in particular that you were like, holy crap, this is awesome?
Huh.
I should have asked you earlier, sorry, but I didn't think
Oh,
about it.
that's a good one. I think I think the biggest holy crap it's awesome moment was the version 2 of the demo, because we always knew it was going to be quick, and it wasn't until we kind of had the app coded up and we had our module like finished and in a case, we were like, oh wow, like it was like, oh, this is fast. The funny thing is, everyone's uses seem to be different. I live down an alley, so funny enough, mine is like, having a flashlight, a camera, and Google Maps. Those are the things which I like to use mine for. But I've not yet had one thing that I was like, whoa, this is incredible, quite yet.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of time, especially with Tasker. There's so much you can do, so it's a matter of time of figuring out, oh, I think I need it for this kind of thing.
We did have one from the community, which was great. I think maybe like 2 or 3 days into the campaign, someone messaged us and they're like, "Can you give me a Google Now button?" Like, I quite like one that was built in, and we were like, "Why didn't we think of that?" Because you shouldn't necessarily have to be on your home screen to access it, and not everyone really wants to leave it constantly, I guess, polling for you to say, "Okay, Google." So that was an interesting suggestion. That was like kind of slapped us in the face. Yeah.
That's good enough for me. Because it's annoying enough to have to hold down the home button and go to it and all that stuff. So that's one button is great.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm really curious to see as this develops. Like you said, Carson, the community throwing ideas at you, saying, "Hey, this would be a fantastic thing." Everybody's going to be different. Everybody's situation is going to be different, and you can program those 3 buttons to launch whatever you want, or do something else crazy, program something in Tasker or whatever. But it's exciting to kind of watch that develop. So
Yeah.
with the Kickstarter, you can back that for the minimum pledge is $1. So if that's all you've got and you want to help Click out, definitely do that. Then the pledges start at $5. At $20, you get a case. Nope, I'm sorry, those are gone. These are flying, man. So right now, the $20 and $25 tiers are gone. So $30 will get you a case, and then the next tier up is $499. At that point, you're getting
Love, some serious love.
Yeah, you meet the team, and you can meet the team. You see the whole production process behind the scenes, and then you're getting exclusive access to early product samples. So
Yeah. One thing I guess I didn't mention is, we are a bootstrap startup, so I think that's quite different from most things you're going to find either on crowdfunding or kind of hardware in general. It's been a really weird situation where we figured out and we were in a good position to develop on this, and we didn't even have time to stop and try and get funding. So everything's just been kind of out of our pockets. It's really just been like this grind and get it done sort of philosophy by any means. And we've been lucky enough, like in London, we're right by Google campus, and they have a device lab there where they've got loads of phones, and we can go and sit down and troubleshoot on them. And just having things like that, accessibility to things like that, has been amazing.
that's great. So you can just kind of head over there whenever you need to and play with the phones and troubleshoot stuff, and
Yeah.
they've been really cool with that.
Yeah, I mean that's really kind of their device lab's just set up for it. It's like this kind of open area, and they've got some of the newest Android devices there, and you can just kind of sit down and and tinker. So it's been huge.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is, man.
I like it.
That's really cool. Well, any other questions, Alex, Nick? Anything else that?
Not for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of any right now.
Well, we may have some more pop up for you, Carson. But man, I tell you, I think I've said it 4 times already. We really are excited, man, about what you guys are doing. So, if you guys are not aware, you're in London, right?
I'm in London. It is kind of late.
It's getting on like 2 o'clock in the morning over there. So, we are going to kind of move on and talk about the G3 and get into some other stuff. Really just the G3. That was the biggest thing this week. Carson, you're welcome to hang out. If you need to jump and catch some sleep, man, that's totally fine too.
I'm going to be here for a little bit. I got to hear what you got to say about this G3. I'm excited myself, to be honest.
Yeah. So that was the biggest thing that happened this week. It leaked for forever, weeks and weeks before it actually was announced. But the G3 is here, and it's a super fantastic phone. I'm gonna run down the specs for you, but it's not all about specs. LG's really packed in some new features. They've updated the UI, this laser autofocus for the camera, and we're seeing some decent things out of the camera and the battery life, surprisingly. But specs-wise, let's see. We've got the 2560 by 1440 display, so that 2K display, 5.5 inches. It's got a Snapdragon 801 chipset, which we were a little bit bummed about. We were kind of wanting an 805 in it with all the pixels it's got to push on that display. But so far, it doesn't seem to be. We haven't seen any really hardcore like testing for gaming or anything, but it seems to be pretty fast just from the hands-on videos and that we've seen so far. The 2 gigs of RAM. There's also going to be a version, and that with 2 gigabytes of RAM, it's also got 16 gigs of internal storage. There's going to be a version with 32 gigs of internal storage and 3 gigabytes of RAM if you want to bump it up. But it does also support a micro SD card up to 128 gigs. So the battery, it's a 3,000 milliamp battery. It is removable. So those were 2 things that we haven't seen on a device in a while. Google with the Nexus program kind of was phasing out removable batteries and shuffling in storage internal. They changed kind of the way KitKat handled micro SD cards to discourage external storage a little bit. But LG apparently, in their testing for this, decided that this was something that consumers wanted, and that was something that there were quite a few people I talked to that specifically picked up Samsung devices because they still had SD card slots and removable batteries. So I was interested to see those 2 things. LG's listening to what, at least what some consumers are saying they want. So the camera, Nick, I'm going to let you talk about the camera a little bit because I know you're a camera guy.
Yay.
So 13 megapixel rear-facing camera, 2.1 megapixel camera on the front, optical image stabilization plus. So, and then that laser, it's got a laser in it, a freaking laser, autofocus. And then radios, LTE, Bluetooth 4.0, BLE. So yeah, definitely so far this year, specs-wise, is probably the highest of the high-end devices that we've seen. And then side-by-sides that we've seen and we've done with the M8 and the Galaxy S5, this thing blows them out of the water. It's not going to be for everybody because the 5.5-inch screen is a little bit larger than some people like, but
Well, that one is LG doing it.
right, and the bezels are tiny, so it's hardly bigger than the G2. So that being said, the specs, are not necessarily everything. What's your initial impressions, Alex? What do you think, man?
I'm still debating if I'm gonna upgrade from the G3 or the G2 to the G3 because I have T-Mobile Jump, so I can upgrade in August. But after seeing the camera results today that I think Fandroid posted, where they compared it to like the S5, the M8, the iPhone, and another device, the
One.
G3 just like blows it out the water. But those are all macro shots too, so it'll be interesting to see how it works with action shots and other places as well. Snapdragon 801, I was kind of bummed to see that, but because it's not much of a upgrade over the 800 and the G2. 805 would have been nicer. Removable battery is nice, but the same battery size I was kind of skeptical about because of all the extra pixels. Phone Arena posted a screenshot today that somebody got like 6 hours on screen on full brightness on it, so maybe battery life is still pretty good because it's pretty amazing on the G2 right now. I mean, I didn't really have any complaints about the G2 other than the skin, the overlay, and they've overhauled that, so we'll see what it looks like once I actually get to start using it. But it was pretty fast on the G2 when I reviewed it, and then ever since I started using it in January. But it's probably gonna be my next one, depending on what Motorola brings out.
Yeah, X Plus One will be here before too long, so.
Yeah, but the X wasn't on T-Mobile, so I wouldn't be able to use it on Jump if they do that again.
Yeah. Maybe the X Plus One will be on T-Mobile, but yeah, those two areas, the chipset and the battery, were the two things that This is the first phone in a long time that I really have been. I can't say anything out of the gate. I can't say anything bad about it. Like, this is just all around.
It looks amazing too. It looks like it's made out of metal, but it's actually polycarbonate.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I'm not really sure about. Like, I guess it's okay, because they teased it for so long, and all we saw was that brushed metal, and everyone was like, "Oh man, it's gonna be like the HTC One," and it's not. So I don't know how I feel.
I've heard that it feels good in hand, but because it's plastic, like the signals can go through easier than like the HTC One because it's all aluminum, so you get worse signal. Which
and it's lighter
I'm okay with that.
The M8 is heavy, man.
Yes,
it's
it is.
Tall, so tall.
So, but yeah, the battery, if that test that popped up on Phone Arena, that screenshot, if that's actually true, then the battery's good to go. And really, the processor is not. It's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal either. I mean, it might be.
Yeah, the 2 GB version is getting the 2.3 gigahertz 801, and the 3 GB is getting the 2.5 gigahertz 801. So there's 2 different clock speeds too.
Yeah, you root it and overclock it if you really need to, but we're kind of getting to the point that it's not. The difference between the 800 and the 801 is not that big, but it's not that detrimental either. I don't feel like for most people, unless you're Justin and you're playing crazy high-res games on your phone all day, it's not going to be that big a deal. So.
Yeah, I know. I was concerned about it at first for that reason, but I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even play phone games. What the heck's my problem?
Yeah.
So it probably wouldn't affect me, and in the UI, we don't really do anything that's going to tax these processors. So it's really all about the gaming stuff if you really are going to care about that.
And the LG skin was already like super light on the G2, and it's probably gotten even lighter on the G3.
Yeah, and the one with the extra gig of RAM, that'll only help.
Yeah.
It's it was interesting though because I saw like a little quick hands-on right after the announcement. I think it was Marquis Brownlee's one where he ran what the heck's that wave race game? Whatever the jet ski game is, I can't remember it right now. But he was running that. Yeah, that's the one, and saying it was running at 1080. So I guess a lot of these games are going to have to get updated to support the full resolution.
Yeah, it's just like with the DNA when that came out. It was like the first 1080p device that was, like available on contract. I mean, there was the Find 5, but that really wasn't here in the U.S. The Droid DNA was basically our first 1080p device, and everything was still running at 720p for a while.
Yep, and this is
Everybody was right about that battery too. And battery
Yep.
was alright for standby, but when you're using it, it wasn't too good.
yeah, and this will be the first 2K display phone that's really big. As much as the
Yeah.
Find 7 is nice, nobody has it.
Yeah, not over here, anyways.
Well, yeah, and I don't know how much that sold. I haven't heard anything about it since it came out.
Only one I've heard about is the 1080p one. Is that the 7A, I think?
Yep.
Because I know Fender had one to review, Marquez had one to review, a few other people did too. We haven't gotten one, obviously.
That's how it goes.
So, Nick, talk to me about this camera, man. What are you excited about
Alright.
with this new camera?
I can't wait to get a hold of it now. I mean, the G2's camera was great. I think we all can pretty much agree with that. The only issue that I ever heard from anybody about it was autofocus problems. And I know in my time with using it, I never really had an issue with focusing. I thought it did a great job, but regardless, I heard some issues about that, and it seems like they've fixed it with the whole laser thing, which, if you haven't seen a laser autofocus, it's just what it sounds like. Shoots a laser out, waits for the beam to come back, which takes, tenth of a second to do, and it's supposed to do that whole thing and focus in a full 250 milliseconds, which is faster than you can blink your eye. So, I don't know. And judging on the pictures that we saw today from Phone Arena, it looks like it does a pretty darn good job of actually focusing on what you want to look at. I think I'm going to try to get this article out by tomorrow, just going over that stuff. But looking at the difference between the S5 and the G3 is ridiculous in some situations. You've heard me complain about Samsung's cameras enough, but they can't focus right. I don't know what else to say. They just have a terrible time doing that. And this thing is like everything looks crisp. It looks good, particularly in those low light shots. And I think putting the optical image stabilization plus in there is really helping that a lot too.
Yeah, when I was using the S5, for review and stuff, I wasn't overly impressed with it. But coming from like the M8 before that, the resolution was a big deal for me because 4 times the resolution. Not that I print pictures or anything, but it was still nice having that much more resolution. But yeah, autofocus wasn't that good, and then OIS was software based, so it wasn't good at all. And the G2 is hardware based, but the G2 is a little slow. Right now I'm using the G Pro 2 camera mod on there, so it's a lot faster actually. So I'm waiting for the G3 camera mod to come out for it.
Won't be long.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's probably out there already. I haven't looked yet. There's system dumps already out.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But yeah, man, that's exciting. I know you've been unhappy with Samsung's cameras for a bit, so.
For a bit.
Yeah,
Like
for a bit. Since you got rid of your Note 2, it's just been.
Yeah.
I can't get this Note 3 camera to work right. I can't get this Note 3 camera to work right.
I think what surprised everybody with the G2 is that LG doesn't make cameras that I know of. Samsung does. So does Sony. And for LG to outdo Samsung was kind of surprising because Samsung makes cameras. They make DSLRs, they make mirrorless cameras, point and shoots, pretty much everything. In fact, they have a couple of them that run Android right now. And LG just came out of nowhere with an amazing camera and just shocked everyone, I think, last year. And then this year, they just built on top of that.
Yep, and the OIS Plus looks really, really interesting because they stuck that extra. I think it's an extra gyro in there. I can't recall, but
yeah,
it really. I don't know. It's really just an interesting technology, and nobody's doing it. I don't know why. And the Nexus 5 has it in there because the LG made the sensor.
I think they said it's supposed to be like 20% better than OIS and the G2 was, which it was already pretty good in there. It was a little bit slow when you had it on and you would like take a picture and then wait for it to show the picture to you to see it. It was a little slow doing that. So I'm guessing the G3 would be a bit faster since it's supposed to be like 20% better. So we'll see.
And I noticed that they like the term 20% in the unveiling. I think they use that like 5 or 6 times with different things.
They like the
20% better battery, 20% lighter, 20%. something else.
Yeah.
They like the number 3 too, because like we have 3 software features. Then they broke them down. They're like, we got 3 features for this feature.
At one point, one of the guys that was talking about whatever feature it was actually laughed for a second, and then he was like,
Yeah.
"We have 3 features," like.
I mean, I know because they're announcing the G3, but it was still pretty funny.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it's a nice little tie-in.
Yep. Well, Alex, you mentioned the overlay.
Yes.
That was the only beef that any of us had with the G2. It was fast, but LG's skin is still just a little cluttered. Then notification pane is chock full of stuff.
I haven't seen a notification pane on the G3 yet.
I haven't either, but
is it the same?
It's got the extra bars. It takes up like half the pane.
yeah.
So I think that's about the only thing they didn't fix.
It's still like this.
It's massive, yeah.
Because when you have QSlide open, it takes up like the entire thing.
Yep. What what have you seen so far of the software? Whether it's the UI, because I know that that was updated. It looks kind of like a mashup between
iOS
7
TouchWiz, Hollow,
Sense, yeah.
it's like everything.
Yep. But is there anything in particular that you like really jumped out to you, or just software-wise?
I like that it's flat now. But like that greenish color that they're using, I'm not a fan of that. I wonder if you can, if they made it so you can customize that, like HTC did in Sense 6.
Yep.
Because I'd rather have that like white or something, to match KitKat. I didn't really see much of the UI actually, other than what they showed up on stage, and they mostly just talked about smart notice, smart security, and smart keyboard. That was the other one. But pretty much for me is everything going flat, which is they're not the first ones to do it, and neither is Samsung. I think Apple was probably the first one for their for mobile, like for smartphones and stuff.
That smart keyboard though looks nice.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm particularly interested in it because you and I, Jeremiah, have switched to Flexi this week.
Yeah.
After me raving about it all weekend.
Yeah, which is a big change, man. I was a SwiftKey guy for a long time.
Yeah, it took me a little while to get used to, but this sounds basically like some sort of hybrid between Flexi and SwiftKey.
Which might be perfect. Because
Yes.
I definitely miss the prediction in SwiftKey, but Flexi's
And I miss
autocorrect is
swiping.
just the swiping one hand is way easier with SwiftKey. But the Flexi autocorrect is just out of this world, man. Like, you don't really have to pay attention to what you're doing. Just put your finger somewhere near the letter that you want,
Yes.
and it'll
Pretty
figure
impressive.
out what word, man. Figure out what word you want. So, but yeah, that smart keyboard, I want to get my hands on that and play with that. I'm sure at some point it'll get pulled. Hopefully, it doesn't rely too much on the LG framework, so that we can install it on other devices. But
Yeah, because the keyboard in G2, I wasn't a real fan of. The only thing I liked about it is that it had the number row above the letters, so you didn't have to switch, when you're putting in passwords and stuff.
Yep.
But other than that, I mean, I pretty much use that to put in my Wi-Fi password. I'm setting up my device, and I install SwiftKey and use that the rest of the time.
right.
But I'm gonna try out the G3 keyword whenever, if I can put it on the G2 when they get it out, or whenever I get a G3 to review.
You'll probably be able to put it on the G2. I'm wondering if it'll be able to load on anything else, though. But we'll
Good
find
question.
out. Yeah, we'll find out. So what else? So G3's coming to in the U.S. Sprint, T-Mobile,
four.
AT&T, and Verizon. Yep, the 4 big ones, and I'm sure it'll hit
No
everybody else
pricing
too.
or availability yet, but Sprint and T-Mobile are doing giveaways. There's like one G3 every day that they're giving away between now and June 29th, I think.
Yep.
So I don't know if that kind of confirms the release date or what, because T-Mobile's calling theirs a beta model, whatever that means.
Yeah, I thought that was real interesting. But
Yeah.
you can re-enter the contest every Tuesday. So we do it now, and then do it every Tuesday to the end of the month. Just throw
Yeah,
your
that's what
name
I
in
did.
the hat.
Might as well give it a shot, man. And then 170 countries, the
Next
UK.
month.
Yeah, and so it's out in South Korea now, but again, no release dates for anybody else.
Yeah, we'll probably see it like probably the middle to end of next month. Usually we see it about a month after it's announced, except for like with the M8, that was like the only exception there, where it was out on Verizon the same day. Then I think it hit 3 weeks later. I think it was like the day before the S5 came out. It actually hit everybody else.
Yep. So hopefully we'll see some of that soon. That'll probably be coming from the carriers, when they have that ready to announce.
We'll keep everybody, on notice, and when it all happens, when it's available for pre-order and such.
Carson, man, you got any thoughts on the G3? I know you kind of been sitting back, a little quiet there, but
I was just listening in and out. The interesting thing for me is the the polycarbonate casing. It's kind of, I'm in two minds about this. I mean, I think a lot of people really like the feeling of the HTC One, and I don't blame them. But from a kind of radio frequency perspective, not only does it can affect your cell phone signal strengths, but any other technology which you're running in the device are probably going to be affected as well. I don't know. It's a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah, and for you guys, NFC, kind of keeping that in mind. I'm wondering if they're going to put it in the same place as like on the G2, or if it'll be moved around too.
Yeah, we can only hope. I'm really gonna be trying to see if I can get hold of anyone who's had review units as soon as possible to try and chase them up and figure out what's going on. It's definitely going to make a big deal for NFC, but I think like just moving forwards, it's really interesting. If like Google Wallet's ever to take off, you can't have metal devices like the HTC One like all over the place because NFC is just not good enough on that phone.
Right. The same thing for ISIS that the U.S. carriers are using for their mobile payment stuff, because that uses NFC too, I believe.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just happy they got rid of the fingerprint magnet that's on the back, because I have LG Lucid 3 from Verizon right now, which it's even worse than the G2 for fingerprints. I was taking pictures today for my review, and it was just impossible because there's so much like glare on it. Like going outside to take pictures, all you can see is like the trees on the phone.
Yeah. Well, that was overall, that was, I think, the thing I was most impressed with the G3 is it seems like LG has listened and addressed most, if not all, of the issues that people complained about. Battery life seems like it's still going to be good. The camera is even better than it was. Those were the two major things that people wanted out of their phones, just in general, not specifically to Android, but just consumers. They didn't. It sounds like they didn't do a whole lot to the UI except flatten the icons and kind of flatten everything out. But the glossy back they got rid of. Just they're listening and they're paying attention, and that's refreshing.
You know what I thought about the listening thing that was really interesting? With the G2, the stock launcher that comes with it looks exactly like the TouchWiz launcher. The only difference is that it functions better, basically. It has things like dragging icons together to make folders, just simple stuff that Samsung, for whatever reason, doesn't want to implement. And this time around, they redesigned it. I think they kept the same features that they had, but it now looks more like a Nova launcher or an Apex or whatever. It's more of like a stock Jelly Bean launcher type of look.
Yeah, LG's launcher has always been like the most feature-rich out of all the OEMs, as far as I can tell. I mean, you can change the icons. You can move the app drawer icon to wherever you want in the app drawer or the dock. There's just so much stuff you can do in there that you can't do in most other launchers unless you install a third-party one. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I wouldn't want to change icons because you got to do each one individually, but it's still nice that it's there.
Sure,
and you can change the size too.
Maybe they made that better this time around. Then they also had that smart notification thing. I want to see what else they're doing with that besides just some additional things for pop-ups for text and that sort of thing.
It's, what was it, weather, I think, flight information, a couple other things. It's kind of like Google Now mixed with a weather widget.
Yep.
And I like how they said that they didn't want to reinvent the wheel. That was a total dig at Samsung.
Yeah. Now, does that smart notification feature, does that tap into Google Now? to pull
I
that
have no idea.
information? Okay.
From what I've seen on like the screenshots, it basically just says that you're gonna need an umbrella because it's gonna rain, stuff like that for
Yeah.
weather. But they did say stuff about it pulling in flight information if you're flying somewhere and stuff. But I haven't seen anything about that yet.
Weather and messaging is pretty simple, just based on location or messaging notifications. But if it's pulling flight information or shipping, like package shipping information, other stuff that Google now does that's more personalized, I'm wondering how LG is getting that information. If they're
And
pulling
with them working so close with Google on the Nexus 4, 5, and the G Watch, and I think they have something else going on with them too. I wouldn't be surprised to see them being able to tap into Google now.
Yep. Any other thoughts, feelings? We're still waiting on our review unit, so.
I think I might have a Korean one coming in with that crazy long antenna.
Yeah? That's for like TV, right? You can get Korean.
Yeah. Well, in Korea you can. I just want it for the antenna.
Let's see if you can go up high enough and get it over here.
Just so you can, you can pull it out in public and pull up the antenna. Like what?
There you
I
go.
need better reception.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Yep.
You go into a dead zone where like nobody has service, and you just pull that up, and you get full signal.
Yep.
I'm just hoping it's under $600 on T-Mobile because I'm spoiled by the 1+1 price now. I don't want to pay more than $350.
The G2 I think was $550 when it launched on T-Mobile.
Yeah.
And now I think it's below $400. It's cheaper than the Nexus 5 right now.
Yeah, you can get it for. We were looking on T-Mobile site the other day. They've got it.
It's like $398, like brand new.
Yep.
Straight from T-Mobile. But of course, if you go like swap up Craigslist, stuff like that, it'll be even cheaper. But it
Yeah.
won't be brand new, probably.
The G3 would probably be $550 or $600
Yeah.
retail.
The 2 GB one, I wonder if carriers are going to sell both of them, because we pretty much know that T-Mobile is selling the 3 GB one because of the specs that they put on the page for, I think it was for the contest. It says 3 gigs of RAM, 32 GB storage.
Yep.
Sprint's contest page, it doesn't say anything about specs, but it says that the average retail value is like 500, I think. Or
That'd be sweet if it were like
$550.
$499. That would really.
Well, they're thinking that's the 2
Excellent.
GB version, but obviously there's no confirmation on that.
It's just that whole thing is so weird because at least in the past, with Samsung devices, they'd have an international Exynos one with 2 gigs or whatever, and then the US one would be a Snapdragon with 3 or something like that. I don't know why they're using the same basic processor when then have different memory configurations.
Yeah, all they did was bump up the 3 GB, processor to 2.5 gigahertz.
Yep.
Which isn't it just the same processor? You just changed
It's
the
just
clock.
clocking
Yeah.
there. Yeah, 2.3 or 2.5. It's incremental.
Because I know the M8 has the 2.3 gigahertz one, and the S5 has the 2.5.
Yeah, it's probably some batch thing that they got. They probably got the 2.3 gigahertz one for cheaper or something.
Yeah, so they'll put
Usually.
that in the emerging markets.
Yeah. Hey,
So alongside the Moto E and Moto G.
yeah, right. That'd be a freaking heck of a cheap phone.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if they sold this for like $179
I
retail?
don't.
I would move to a third world country.
Well, just something like that here,
Not
I'd
true.
buy it. I don't care what carrier it is, I'll buy it.
Yeah, that would be impressive.
So yeah, we'll keep you updated on release dates and pricing and that kind of thing as those details emerge. But if you need a camera with a laser in it, get you a G3. Yeah, we're really excited about that.
Probably going to be one of the better cameras this year. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure,
compared to
man.
the M8, it's got better resolution, so you're going to get bigger pictures, if you want to print them and stuff. The S5 will have better resolution than the G3, but then it comes down to picture quality and then OIS, since G3 has hardware OIS and S5 has software. So there's a bit of a difference there. But there's a lot of actually really good cameras coming out this year, because I'm sure the Note 4 will probably try to have a good camera, but Nick will probably say it doesn't.
Who knows? Maybe Samsung will step it up, but
I don't have high hopes for Motorola's camera though. They never really have a good one.
they haven't in their entire existence.
Yeah,
released a
they're
phone
they're
with
another one
camera.
that just doesn't really get it. I don't know.
Which is
It's like
sad. It's
whoever
close
they
as they
get
were
their
working with
cameras,
Google, but
whoever they get their camera from, they gotta go somewhere else. Go to like Sony or LG or Samsung or somebody.
I should look up the sensor just to see. Let's see.
Because even going back to like the original Joy, cameras have been, eh.
and that was
They had
the only problem with the Moto X. Everything else was phenomenal. So
well, the KitKat update also messed up battery life. Because I was getting pretty good battery life until KitKat came along, then it was pretty bad.
It's an OmniVision, which is the same company that makes the HTC One sensor. Take that with what you will.
They should have asked for the Duo or the Ultra Pixel. They probably got leftovers.
yeah, they might. So that was the big news this week. Let's jump into some news. We'll come back to some more hardware stuff and some software and app stuff too. But this was interesting in the saga of the OnePlus One. OnePlus is now selling invites to purchase the One on eBay. This is like a complete, like jerk move. You hear about people buying things and then flipping them on eBay because they're in high demand. OnePlus is doing it themselves. The cool part is they're donating all the proceeds to charity. So the way this works, they've got a block. It's just one auction on eBay for a block of 15 invitations. Whoever wins it can use one of those invites to buy a device for themselves, and then the other 14 you give away, so other people can get OnePlus Ones. Whatever proceeds they make, any profits they make from this eBay auction for these invites, they're giving away to a charity. There are 4 different charities, and they're actually letting their community vote on the OnePlus forums for the charity that they want whoever we want the money going to. It's either water.org, UNICEF, the World Wildlife Fund, or 1% for the Planet. The voting is open until 2:59 p.m. tomorrow, so if you're interested in voting in that. When I first heard about this, I thought it was just another, PR gimmick, just something to keep the OnePlus One name kind of in the headlines. And I thought it was kind of a jerk move to, be selling these on eBay. But they're donating the money to charity, so you can't really say anything bad about that. I thought that was kind of cool. It's a pretty obvious stalling tactic. Like they're just trying to keep people focused on the OnePlus One, but they're not ready to ship devices yet. They shipped out 100 to the people who won the Smash Your Phone contest, which that was pretty cool too. I read 86 out of the 100 people who won that contest decided to donate their phones instead of smash them.
Yep.
So I feel like
cool.
when I wrote up this article, I put this in there, but I feel like OnePlus, their hearts are in the right place. They're really this charity auction. When people kind of made a stink about smashing phones, they were real quick to say, hey, we have this other option. You can donate your phone instead. When things they've run into issues, they had that problem with the contest in their forums. They were real quick, again, to fix it, set things right. They ended up giving away more phones and more prizes in that contest. They just haven't quite figured out the logistics yet.
Yeah,
So they're still running into some issues.
Yeah, it seems like their heart's in the right place, just their phone isn't.
Right, and it's been not even 6 months, And the time frame is not they're not outside of their time frame that they've gave us originally. Yeah. They said the end of June is when they wanted to be shipping devices to consumers, and they may still be on track for that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like they rushed the announcement because they wanted to make sure they got the hype in, and they've been continuing it, trying to continue it at least in social networks, and it seems like every time now that I see a new post from them, which is basically every day, there's always a reply right up top that talks about how pissed off somebody is that they keep seeing 1+1 post this crap and they can't buy the phone and blah blah blah. Like, I'm sure that's just the vocal people, not the majority. But
right.
I don't know. And they're working on it. They posted another picture today of, I don't know, like 8 pallets or something full of boxes that have 1+1s in them. So, they're ready to ship out a couple thousand. It seemed like, I don't know, whatever their first batch size is. It looks like it's just about ready to be done.
And we saw an update to CM11,
Yep.
yeah, CM11S.
Stable.
Yeah. So now that was interesting too because it factory reset the device when you installed it.
Yes, like it says incremental update, then it says it's going to factory reset your device, which is kind of funny to me.
Right. It's not so incremental if it's having to wipe everything to get things working properly. But they're getting closer to having things done. So.
Yep. Now, I'm wondering if it fixes the few little weird bugs that people were talking about in the hands-ons, like the low volume on calls and stuff. It's just stupid little things,
And Google Play Music randomly playing.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that one.
Oh my gosh,
It
dude, that
happened
was.
on the Android Central podcast because Andrew has his, and it just
Andrew.
started talking about it, and then it just started happening. It was like perfect.
Man.
Yep. There was a podcast they did where every time it was, what band was it? Audio Slave. And like 4 or 5 times during the podcast, just because that was the first band in his, Google Music library, and it just kept popping up. So pretty funny stuff. But yeah, I'm sure that this will fix those issues. But if you want to, keep an eye. They haven't put the eBay auction up yet. I'm assuming that they're going to wait until the voting closes for the charity tomorrow before they put the auction up, so they can say this is where the money's going. But I haven't seen where they posted the eBay sale yet. But yeah, OnePlus still in the news. This was interesting too, Alex. You wrote a post just today about the IDC projecting lower tablet shipments in the upcoming year. And this was interesting to me just because we've heard so much about tablets replacing laptops and people. I've got an iPad with a keyboard on it for work, and instead of lugging my laptop out in the field, I just carry that around because it's easier and lighter. But tablets replacing laptops, and now we're hearing that phablet-sized devices might be replacing tablets. Just projections. That's pretty interesting, man.
Yeah, the IDC dropped their forecast from, I think it was 260 million tablets shipped this year to 241. It might be 214. I get those two numbers mixed up. I don't have the post up in front of me right now. But basically,
245.
they're basically saying basically what was happening with PCs where tablets were replacing them. Now tablets are replacing tablets because people don't see, they don't see the point of having a smartphone and a tablet when you can just have a phablet that's pretty much both. Because a lot of people are going for those 7-inch tablets now because the 10-inch ones are too big. And you've got phones that are near 6 inches now, so it's like, why not? Especially if you have data connection on your phone. You don't need to buy it. Have another line for your tablet. I mean, unless you're on T-Mobile or Verizon where they're giving you like a gigabyte free every month. Right now, that's like 2 bills, and you just combine it into one and save money, and it's one less device to carry around.
Yep.
I'm not really surprised by it, but I think Samsung is the one that started the whole phablet craze, because Dell tried it way back in, what was that, 2009, 2008?
Yes.
The Dell Streak.
Mm-hmm.
The Streak.
Didn't really take off.
That's the power of marketing right there.
Yep.
But yeah, that's What were you gonna say, Nick? Sorry.
I was saying, and the more we get phones like the G3 with practically zero bezels, I think the more palatable these phones get to more people.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, this is an interesting bit of news there. Another thing that was announced this week that wasn't as big a deal, but Samsung announced some new health stuff. So a new platform called Samsung Architecture Multimodal Interactions. Basically, they're building like a health platform. They're just going to load a bunch of all of your health and wellness data that they can gather and see what can be done with it. Whether it's medical applications or fitness or just people that want to track what they're doing health-wise. They announced a new, and it's not an actual device yet, but a new fitness tracker called the Sinband.
The Sinbad.
Yes, the Sinbad, which was hilarious. It's not the Sinbad, it's the Simband. But the references to the comedian were pretty good today. They're floating around all over the place on Twitter and forums and stuff. But this band has got all kinds of different sensors in it. So not only will it track, count your steps and do things like current fitness trackers, Fitbit, and other ones out there. It'll also log your heart rate, your oxygen levels, glucose levels. It may even be able to test air quality around you, count calories. So they're still just kind of they call it an investigational device. They're just kind of in the planning phases with it. But I thought it was a really cool concept. Moving beyond just, kind of like strictly fitness apps, where I'm not a runner, but I would love to be able to track some of this other information.
You know what I thought was really interesting about it, and the timing kind of struck me as, I don't know, whatever, but Nintendo for a while has been working on this thing called quality of life, and from what I understand, it's basically the same thing. And I don't know if they were going to announce that at E3, which is in a week and a half or whatever. That's the big annual video games convention out in, I think it's Los Angeles. But it's something that they talked about back in February, and they've been working on it. And I wonder if this thing ends up being a similar thing, if it's going to just totally sweep their project under the rug. Like I don't know what they're both going to end up doing with it, but I know they're working on similar types of things.
And Apple is supposed to be announcing their iWatch / fitness tracker stuff next week too. So,
yep.
The Samsung pushed this out just before that. But the back end, the platform, that SAMI platform that they're developing to store all this information in the cloud and aggregate it, and they're going to open it up to developers. So, different apps and usage scenarios can be built on this information. So the S Health app is one of the better Samsung apps that they built. So I'm curious. I'm going to be watching that. I'm curious to see what they do with that. They're also working on a smartwatch with a round face. This wasn't that big a deal, but it did pop up that Samsung's, obviously we know they're working on new smartwatch stuff, but there was a patent that was found for a Samsung smartwatch with a round face, like the Moto 360.
You know what? If they can just put a better scratch-resistant glass on their next watch, I'll be happy.
Did you scratch your gear all up already?
My freaking gear has scuffs all over it. Terrible.
If they just make it compatible out of the box with more than just Samsung devices, I'll get it. Because I wanted the Gear Fit, but I don't have a Samsung device, so
there's
that would have been a really expensive smartwatch for me.
At the end of the day, that's what it's coming down to for for them. And they're going to have to open it up because we saw a leak today for the LG G Watch, which looks to be finalized hardware, though the software's still a little buggy. So it's probably
Microsoft also put out a leak about theirs coming for, it'll be compatible with Windows Phone 8, Android, and iOS. So now you got Microsoft in the mix. I don't know how well it's going to sell, but they're still there. Then you have all the Android Wear stuff, which Samsung's supposed to be having an Android Wear device too, because they were on the list of partners. Pretty much everybody except for Sony was on there.
Yep.
And Sony doesn't want to do Android Wear, which I don't think is a smart move.
They'll change their minds.
I hope.
They will.
Because Pebble is not doing it either, which I'm not surprised at. But
Pebble's their own thing. I wouldn't expect that.
I don't think the Pebble Steel is going to sell much after like the Moto 360 comes out.
They might though, man, because there's Pebble does notifications really well, and I feel like there's going to be a subset of people that just want notifications. I don't need all this other. I don't need Google Now. I just want the text.
They don't even need a color screen.
Right, and there's depending on how involved you want your wearables to be, maybe that's all that you want out of it. So, with the ecosystem that they've already built, Pebble's got a good thing going. I don't see them going anywhere. It's good to have competition, but
exactly. And I know, if Samsung wants to keep competing in the smartwatch thing, they're going to have to get something else out because it's not like the Gear sells very well.
No, but they were on the list of partners for Android Wear, so.
Yes. 70% of the market already, so.
Yeah, but it's a very small market.
Yeah, but then that's also basically they're only marketing really to people that have Samsung devices. I mean, I know you can sideload the Gear APK onto your phone, but how many people are actually going to do that? Because there's no guarantee that it's going to work completely.
And it is a major pain. Like even running AOSP on my Note 3, I couldn't get the Gear working with it.
Because I put the Gear APK on, I think it was the Nexus 5 at the time. And back then, I think we had to put like 3 or 4 different APKs on there to get it to work, and it was just not worth it for me.
It's super hacky, and it just doesn't work well, Yeah,
and I don't see a lot of people doing that, except for maybe like, tech reviewers like us or tech geeks. Other than that, I don't see a lot of people doing it, so they're mostly only selling to Samsung users or people that are buying a S5 or Note 3.
Well, and then on the flip side with that, look at how much advertising they did for the Gear.
Yep.
Did you see any advertising for any of the other smartwatches out there? I guarantee you most people don't even know smartwatches exist outside of the Gear.
Well, some people don't even notice the Gear. They're like, oh, that's a Samsung watch.
Yes, trust me, I've gotten plenty of that. No, you know what people ask me? Hey, is that phone watch? I'm like, well, I guess you can call it that.
Yeah, I didn't wear it
outside so often.
I didn't wear it outside the house because, well, this is Detroit, so.
Yeah, and then we also saw Android Wear, in addition to this G Watch hands-on. We saw some more like screenshots and just kind of how Android Wear is going to work pop up on Google Plus. So we got a little bit of a peek at that also. That'll be announced at I/O.
Well, it was already announced, but we'll probably see a lot more about it at I/O.
Right,
probably most I/O will probably be about Android Wear.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing about Android TV or Google Plus on the schedule. So there's a lot of room for Android Wear. I think there's a lot of Android Wear sessions too.
There wasn't a Google Plus, but there was a lot of Google like sign-in sessions. So it's the same platform. They're just not calling it Google Plus anymore. But yeah, so as we get closer to that being officially available and on some physical devices, it's cool to see this stuff pop up, just to see what we're going to get. I thought it was really interesting that all these screenshots and this G Watch hands-on that popped up. I don't know if you guys remember, it's probably a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Some like fan renders were making their way around the internet of what a Google Watch could or should look like. uh, I don't remember if it was after Pebble or after the first Gear was announced.
I think it was around the time the Gear was announced.
It
'Cause
was around
I,
Gear.
I remember writing about it actually.
But all of this stuff looks just like that.
Yep.
So if you go look up any of those old fan renders, Google definitely took some design cues from that, which I thought was kind of cool. What else popped up this week? Galaxy S5 active showed up in some photos, and the thing looks like a tank.
Well, it showed up on a video like last week. Somebody drove across the country to get his hands on one.
I mean, okay.
Everybody's posted a picture of what he said was the S5 active and took it down because everybody's like, that's just the S5 because it was.
Yeah.
Nice. This the S5 active, I thought it was really stupid at first. I don't know what I still think about it anymore, but there was somebody was saying that it's got OIS built into the camera. I don't know how legit that is because I haven't heard that from anywhere but one place. That's something to look at if that's true because that might actually help quite a bit. And then it's got like a barometer and I guess a proper compass in there. I don't think I realized that our phones didn't have some kind of compass sensor in it, but I don't know. And then it's supposed to be, it's an extra waterproof rating higher. What was the last thing? Besides, I guess the case was a lot more rugged. Like it's got this weird, it almost looks like a built-in bumper case where the corners have like this extra padding. I don't know what kind of material it is. It just looks like harder plastic or something.
To me, it seems like they're trying to compete with like Casio's rugged stuff they have on Verizon, and then Caterpillar's B11. So like people that are in construction, they can have a high-end device that doesn't look completely ugly.
Yeah.
Because those look pretty bad. I mean, the S5 isn't amazing looking, or the S5 Active isn't, but it's better than Casio stuff that they have on Verizon, and it's probably a lot more up to date.
Yeah, no, it's way more up to date.
Yeah.
Because I think those are running like 4.1 or something, like the last one that they announced earlier this year.
I was gonna say gingerbread, so you gave it a lot more slack than I was going to.
The newest one they announced in, I think it was like January, February. It's on some form of jelly bean. I don't remember which one, but it's not 4.3.
It's probably 4.2. There's a lot of new phones that keep getting announced at 4.2 for whatever reason. Yeah. Or TVs. I've seen a lot of those too.
And then this would be big news if we get an official announcement out of it, but SoftBank supposedly has agreed to buy T-Mobile USA. That's not been... We heard rumors of that. John Ledger wouldn't confirm or deny any information about that at MWC. But now we're hearing that it's going to be official. Deutsche Telekom wants out of the U.S. market. They've wanted that for a long time. And
the rumor comes out of Reuters, or however you say their name. So it's probably true, because they have a pretty good track record with stuff like this. Usually, as soon as they say it's a rumor, about an hour later it comes out true, but we still haven't heard anything. So.
Well, and it originally hit, I think, in Japan is where the information first came from.
And then Reuters sourced, I think it was like Kyoto or something. It was something like that, like KYODO.
Yeah. But the CEO of SoftBank at Recode was just talking about a T-Mobile acquisition and kind of dancing around the subject a little bit when he was asked about it. But this has been, again, it's been in the rumors for a while. I'm okay with it if SoftBank keeps John Ledger and the people that are running T-Mobile at the helm, because Sprint has been a bit of a train wreck for a good while, and I like what T-Mobile's doing. So,
what's interesting to me today, I've noticed that Ledger hasn't said anything on Twitter, or really yesterday or today. Usually he's on there all day long tweeting, making fun of Sprint and everybody, but not a word. So I'm wondering if maybe it is true, but this is also only the first step in Sprint buying T-Mobile, because the regulators still have to approve it. FCC, I don't think the DOJ can really do anything about it, but the FCC definitely can. And so far, they haven't been too keen on it.
The Department of Justice can if they're the ones that shut down the AT&T T-Mobile merger a couple years ago. But
yeah,
this isn't even the first step. This is just SoftBank agreeing to it.
Well, it's just DT, Deutsche Telekom, agreeing to what SoftBank's going to pay them. Which I think they'd probably take like $10 to get out of the U.S. They'd probably pay to get out of here because they're trying to beef up their network in Europe from all the competition that they're getting over there.
Yeah.
But because they're not putting money into T-Mobile over here, which is probably a big reason why we're losing money.
So we'll, if we hear something official, we'll let you know about it. But that's kind of creeping up towards happening. Whether or not it gets through regulatory approval, this merger has a better chance of getting approved than the AT&T T-Mobile merger ever did.
Yeah.
So we'd end up with 3 big carriers here in the U.S. instead of 4.
I still think Dish is going to be involved somehow. I've been hearing some people say that like Sprint and Dish would like split the spectrum that T-Mobile has and then offload a lot of the customers over to Dish, so they'd be kind of a strong 4th competitor, but not as strong as Sprint would be.
Didn't AT&T just buy Dish?
DirecTV.
Oh, DirecTV. Okay. Satellite company, man. I don't.
Dish has been trying to get into wireless for like ever. They tried to buy Sprint, but they couldn't compete with SoftBank's wallet basically because they have a bunch of spectrum already that they've been buying up, and they can't even use it. So I don't know why they're buying it. Yeah,
they'll sell it at some point if they can't use it.
We heard Comcast is trying to get into it too. I don't know if it's just SoftBank trying to get everybody to get on board with SoftBank buying T-Mobile instead of Comcast, since everybody seems to hate Comcast.
With good reason.
Which I wouldn't put it past them to do that.
Right. And then, along with the LG G3 being announced this week, which that launch event is up on YouTube if you want to go watch it if you didn't get a chance to. But the PadFone X was officially released by AT&T. This was announced back in January at CES, and they've just been sitting on it.
Yep, so it'll be, I think pre-order started today, but it'll be on the 6th. So they basically held an event to announce that launch date.
Yeah. Which is fine. Whatever.
PadFone S2, right? Or is that a separate event?
The PadFone S I don't think has been officially confirmed yet, but it's basically the PadFone X with international radios.
Yeah, because somebody was like, oh, hopefully it comes to the rest of the carriers, not with international radios.
Yeah, no, the PadFone X will be the only one so far that we've seen for the U.S. The PadFone S is the international version.
I think at CES they said it was exclusive to AT&T as well, so I wouldn't expect to see another PadFone coming to the U.S. for probably close to a year.
Yeah, and this is AT&T's first phone that supports HD voice as well. So
yeah, that's kind of cool.
It's kind of a it's nice. I'm not really sure why they're restricting it to phones like that, but whatever.
And that part they even announced back at CES and just now are rolling out.
Yep.
I'm surprised VoLTE isn't on it since it's on the S4 Mini, which they just announced, which I don't know why they waited so long to do that either.
Which I'd be interested to see if it supports HD voice as well.
Because they put out the S5, then they put out the S4 Mini. Kind of backwards.
That is backwards. But with these carriers, man, we've seen Verizon do it too. They just test and test and test and test.
With quotation marks.
Yeah, and maybe they are actually testing it. And
I mean, look at Verizon and HTC One M7 last year. What, about 6 months after everybody else they put it out?
4, I think.
It was like September, August, September, around that time.
Yeah.
So it was way too long, however long it was.
But the PadFone X, if you're not familiar with the design, what Asus does with the PadPhones is it's a phone that slides into a tablet. So the PadFone X is a 5-inch phone with a 1080p display, 13-megapixel camera on the back that docks into a 9-inch tablet The phone's got, I want to say like a 2,500 milliamp hour battery, something like that. It's in that
Yeah,
range.
that sounds about right.
2,500. But then the tablet has another like 4,000.
I wonder if when you slide your phone into the tablet, if it'll charge your phone.
It does.
Yeah.
I thought it did. I know Huawei's Ascend Mate 2, it can charge other devices from that phone.
Yeah, which is kind of
so
cool.
massive. But the batteries were like 4,000 milliamp or something like that.
In the phone, yeah.
It's huge. Because the first one was huge, and that thing lasted probably about twice as long as the G2 did.
Yep.
And I was reviewing that one.
Yeah, the PadFone is really awesome, and honestly, I'm really glad to see that it's finally coming over here, even if it is only on one carrier.
I'm a little surprised too, but yeah, I'm excited because the concept is great. And if you're looking for a device, if you're looking for a phone and a tablet, you can just get that, and the tablet won't do anything until you slide the phone into it. That's where all the processing power comes from.
Yeah, basically the tablet's just a shell with a big battery and a screen.
But it's a really, really cool concept.
Yeah.
So
I think they first showed it off at CS 2012, maybe it was 2011. It was a few years ago, and everybody was like, well, "I can't wait for it to come here." And basically, I heard from ASUS's like PR guys, it's like it's pretty much never gonna come here because of the carriers, because they want you to pay, they want you to pay for 2 lines instead of one that does 2 devices, because they want more money, obviously. I would too, but that's why I'm surprised to see AT&T with it, especially like AT&T and Verizon, because they're the bigger two. I was expecting more to be on Sprint or T-Mobile first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is the 3rd PadFone, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, there's PadFone Infinity, and then I think PadFone X.
And then this one, yeah.
So a couple other things I want to hit on, and then we'll wrap up here. This was just kind of cool. If you haven't seen it yet, go look up this video. Google announced a new self-driving car that doesn't have a steering wheel, and they put together a video, just a couple of minutes long, demoing it and like putting people in it and filming them while the car is driving them around town, and so it's really cool. And then some software stuff. The Android Device Manager was updated with a guest login. So did you guys get the update or sideload the APK and play with that at all yet? I have not.
I haven't done anything with it.
Let's see if I've gotten it yet. I didn't see it pop up earlier, but it doesn't mean anything.
I don't think I have it installed right now because I just did a reset on my device a few days ago.
Yes, there it is. Bam.
So that guest login, I'm assuming, works like a guest account on
I think
your laptop or something, where you can just, or on your tablet, you can log somebody in as a guest, and it gives them, they don't have full read-write access to the whole device and that kind of thing.
I think it was more for phones.
The changelog on the Play Store says get sign in, allow a friend to temporarily log into Android Device Manager to find their device.
Yeah, so like if you lose your phone, you can go on your wife's phone and log on there to find your device.
That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Which is very nice. So you don't have to go find a computer to do it now.
Yes.
Yep. So you can do it probably quicker now.
So yeah, if you haven't received that update yet, be on the lookout for it. It's rolling out. If you want to load the APK, it's floating around out there. You can go download it. But Google Maps got an update too. They added back in the terrain view that we saw a while ago, and then was pulled. I didn't really see anything else that was super interesting about this Maps update, but that terrain view is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's all that was in there. Everything else is probably bug fixes and stuff. But that's the only thing that users will see.
And then YouTube turned 9 years old this week. Feels like it's been around forever, but it's only 9. Pretty crazy stuff. So I got to thinking back to like 2005 and what was going on in my life and what I was doing on the internet in 2005. And at 2005, I wasn't on Twitter yet.
I was still getting chain mails of Dancing Baby.
Yeah, Twitter wasn't a thing yet. Facebook was still locked. You had to have a college email address to get into Facebook.
Yep, I
at that
remember that.
point. But
I don't even know if I had internet at that time, other than when I was in school, because I was in high school at that time. I was a sophomore. I think the only time I had internet was when I was in a computer class,
yeah, it's crazy, man.
and that was back with dial-up over here at least.
Oof, yeah. No, I had broadband. I think it was like 6 megs down on a cable connection, but
It was dial-up until I think 2006 or 7. Then it went to DSL. AT&T upgraded to DSL.
You know what's actually really funny about the beginning of YouTube? I don't remember if it was right when it came out or what, because I don't recall when they started doing HD resolutions and stuff. But I remember being able to perfectly stream a 1080p video on my 6 meg broadband connection. And now you can get like a 50 meg connection, and that crap will still buffer.
it buffers. Yeah, dude, I've got a 50 meg connection
15 meg right now, and it buffers.
Yep. There you go.
Like, I'm hardwired to the modem, and the modem's right next to my computer, and it still buffers.
360p buffer, yes.
Well, I watch in 4K now, even though I don't have a 4K display.
Why not?
It doesn't buffer in 4K, which is surprising.
Well, it's because
720p it buffers, but 4K, nope, no problem.
nobody's calling into those 4K servers like to
Yeah.
stream that video. And that's the thing is there's so many. We've got faster connections, but there's so many more people on YouTube now.
Yep.
So.
And then on top of that, we have a lot of these ISPs that throttle traffic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I know is a big issue with YouTube in particular, because at least at one point there was a working proxy that you could put YouTube through and it would never buffer, and then the ISPs figured it out.
Yeah.
I bet if you have Google Fiber, it works fine.
Probably.
Well, sure. Google doesn't throttle, that's why.
Man, I want Google Fiber so bad.
Everybody does.
Move to Utah, my friend.
But right now I'm fine with 55 up and 11 down that I get from Comcast, so.
Yeah, that'll work.
Not too
For
shabby.
now.
And then this was not new news, but we got a little more details on it. Google apparently updated the app refund policy in the Play Store. We first heard about this last month, beginning of April, that the 15-minute window for app refunds wasn't set in stone. And there's always been ways that you could, email the developer or email Google and try and get your money back. But basically, what has happened now is Google's updated this, and anything that you can get a refund on an app now anytime you want. There's like 3 levels, three options for app refunds. The normal 15-minute window is still in place. We're used to that. If you request an app refund after 15 minutes, so let me back up just a little bit. The way that 15-minute refund window works is you buy an app, you request a refund within 15 minutes. The developer at that point loses the money for that purchase. Google refunds it to you. If you request an app refund between 15 minutes and 48 hours of purchasing it, the app, sometimes that refund request will go to the developer for approval. More often than not, though, what we're seeing now is Google just automatically approves that refund and takes the money from the developer. So that's within the first 2 days. After 48 hours, everything that we're seeing points to the app refund being fully automated. Google doesn't ask any questions. They just give you your money back. The developer is not charged for the refund at that point, so they still get to keep their money. Google's eating that cost. And the app is not removed from your list of purchased apps, so you still have it. You just get your money back for it. Google has said that they have a process in place so that people don't abuse this system. They didn't give any details, but we're assuming that it's, if they see that you're refunding a whole bunch of apps, or that you're abusing it, that they'll stop you from being able to do that. Now, whether that's just freezing your account so you can't refund any more apps, or suspending you from purchasing future apps for a certain amount of time, we don't really know. They just say that they have a policy in place to handle that if somebody gets abusive with it. But I thought this was really interesting. Google has basically decided that it's easier just to give people their money back, because these app refunds, even within 48 hours, are automated. It's not going to the developer for approval. It's not, sitting in an inbox somewhere at Google headquarters waiting for a review. It's just being approved. They're giving you your money back. They're not asking any questions. And I remember there being, people were really upset when Google initially changed the app, changed the refund policy from 24 hours to only 15 minutes. I'm wondering if they ran into enough complaints and enough issues that they just changed it.
All I gotta say here is thank God it's about time.
Well, I think the 15 minutes was a little bit too small of a time frame, because if you're
can't
downloading,
even finish downloading that stuff sometimes. Yeah.
if you're downloading like Asphalt 8, which is like I think 1.5 gigabyte file, depending on what kind of connection you have, it's not going to be done downloading in 15 minutes. I think even on my Wi-Fi, it took about 15 minutes to download. So that was my real only issue with the 15-minute refund window. I mean, if it's a small app like a megabyte or two, then 15 minutes is probably plenty of time to figure out if you like it or not. But now that you pretty much don't have a time limit, it sounds like a good idea to me.
And I'm not saying you should run out to your, go find your app listing on the Play Store and just refund everything because you can get all your money back.
I wonder if you buy an
jerk.
app and get a refund and then buy it like again later on, if you'll be able to refund it again, because right now you can't. Because I bought a Chameleon launcher like way back, refunded it, then they got an update, so I bought it again to see how it went, and I couldn't return it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's changed or not.
Because if it did, I want my money back for that, because that was a piece of crap.
But, if you refund it now, it's still there after 48 hours. So you just got to make sure you're outside of the initial 48-hour purchase window. But the app's still there, so you still have access to it. They might change that at some point too. But
I'm wondering if people are like pulling the APK and then getting the refund. I wonder if there's some way Google can get around that, because that's where a lot of pirating is going to come from, I think.
That's where a lot of pirating already comes from. Just pulling the APK and sharing it. It's not difficult.
And getting a refund, and I mean, you're not out any money really.
And maybe they just decided that that's another issue that they didn't want to deal with. But Android Police did a bunch of research on it. They reached out to Google and got confirmation on it. That's the way it's working. So, pretty interesting stuff. But yeah, that's all we had on the agenda for tonight. Carson, you're not familiar with this, but at the end of every show we do something called "What's New in Your Android World." Doesn't matter whether it's apps, new phones, cases, just something new that you're having fun with that's Android related. Alex, what's new, man? What you got going on?
I don't even know. I don't think I've gotten anything new.
It's a first for you, man.
I've been using BillGuard though. That's that app that came from iOS. It kind of looks like an iOS port. Basically, you can jump into your bank account, credit cards, all that stuff in one app. See like all your purchases and stuff. Only thing I don't like about it is like you can't transfer money between accounts, because I do that a lot since we use PayPal here. But I think that's about it for me. Oh wait, I got a wireless charger from Incipio. It's a pretty small one. Also has a battery pack somewhere.
Yeah, you were telling me about that, man. That's pretty cool.
This one's a battery pack that charges via Qi wireless charging. I mean, you can also charge it the old-fashioned way, but you can just set it down on top of the wireless charger and it charges. I'm not sure if you can set your phone on top of the battery and charge it, because I don't have any phones that do wireless charging right now. I got both of those on Incipio and over the weekend, and Probably have a review maybe tomorrow or the next day. Probably pretty soon. And that's about it for me.
Yeah, that was a cool concept.
Oh yeah,
Having that
really
extra
cool.
battery pack. Nick, what about you, man? What's new?
Big thing I mentioned earlier was Flexi.
Yeah.
I've actually enjoyed the heck out of Samsung's keyboard since the Note 3 launched, which is one of the only things I've enjoyed on this phone. But it had a few stupid little bugs that annoyed me. So every now and then I'll get, whatever, go around, look at new keyboards, because I think we have a new keyboard that comes out every other day on Android. And I heard a lot of fuss about Flexi recently. So they got a trial. I'll give it a try. They give you like 2 months free right off the top. So you can go grab the trial, see how you like it. It was kind of jarring at first because it's really gesture-based. You swipe to the right for enter. You swipe, let's see, left for delete. You swipe up for like fixing a word suggestion if it autocorrects to the wrong thing, and then you swipe down to swipe through all the different words that it wants to suggest. So right at the top is really gesture-heavy. If you're not used to a keyboard like that, it really threw me off because I'm used to doing the swipe input where you move your finger around and makes words, whatever.
Swift key
So
flow.
yeah, like flow or whatever, exactly. So after maybe 3-4 days, I started getting used to it, and now I'm like, I don't know, it's great. It's really, really awesome. Just super, super fast. Like you said earlier, prediction is fantastic. Visually, the keyboard looks amazing, and I'm really hoping once I get better with it, I'll be able to use the invisible mode. So basically, you can enable this thing where you swipe down on it twice with both of your thumbs, or whatever fingers you want to use, I guess, and it literally makes the keyboard invisible. So there doesn't appear to be anything on your screen, but the keyboard's still there, so you can, if you know where all the stuff is, you just type with it, and you can see all the stuff behind it, and it's great. I don't know, it just is a really compelling reason for me to get good at the keyboard.
Yeah, and I've been using that also just to try it out, and it's the first keyboard I've used in a long time that's tempted me away from SwiftKey. I went and bought it. It was $1.99. They had it on sale for half off, and I bought it.
Yeah, I forgot that.
Just because I figured I'd grab it while it was on sale. But there's a whole bunch of like tutorials and badges that you can earn. So I've only got a couple of them, but as you're going through, you can like select this stuff, and it'll teach you how to use the keyboard, and you earn a badge to do it. So they give you just a little bit extra, kind of add that gaming experience, which makes you want to come back and play with it some more and learn it.
Yep.
Brad is saying that Flexi is off, or 50% off until May 30th, so that's what, tomorrow? Yeah.
Tomorrow.
So if you want to get Flexi for $1.99, you got till tomorrow.
Get on it. And then the other thing that I've been using, I grabbed I think yesterday or the day before, is Unicon, and it used to be called something else. I don't recall what, but basically, gotta have root, gotta have exposed, and it just replaces all the icons on your system. So a lot of launchers will support this, where you change the icon pack, you go in the launcher, and you got nice little themed launchers. I'm sorry, nice little themed icons, but only in your launcher. Themed launcher, yeah. Themed icons only in your launcher. It's getting late. Unicon changes that on a system-wide basis. So it actually goes in and replaces all the icons. I think it's within the APKs because it takes a little while to do it. But even in the apps now, all the icons will be themed. So like I open, T-Mobile Visual Voicemail, for instance. That nice little icon on the top left is now whatever icon pack I have for the visual voicemail icon. Like it's awesome. It looks so nice, and it just feels like a total complete refresh of your phone. I think the app's it's like $2, and it supports all the icon packs. It's great.
It also requires root, so if you're not rooted, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, it's root, and I'm pretty sure it requires exposed, or at the very least, it has an exposed module. So whatever.
Well, the latest of this update says it was fixed for exposed 2.3, so I'm guessing it does work with exposed.
Yeah, if it's changing stuff on the system level, but that's been a complaint, for icon packs. So that's a cool fix for that. It's a great find, Nick.
Yeah, I'm going to
Carson.
download it now.
Good stuff, man. What's new with you, Carson? What have you been playing with recently?
To be honest, we got some wireless chargers in, but our wireless chargers aren't quite as nice as, as the ones that you have over there. So it's actually quite funny. It's not really taken off in the UK like it has in the US. You actually really have to hunt for wireless chargers over here. Like I've been into like 5 or 6 stores trying to find one. But yeah,
Wow.
definitely gonna pick up Flexi because you guys keep telling me about it. I'm gonna do that when I get off here.
Yeah, there's a free trial, man. Just download it and play with it for a little bit and see. Even once it goes off sale, I think it's $4 instead of $2. But
Yeah, I think that's the same price as SwiftKey was. I tried using SwiftKey, but it was just annoying for me. I'll probably go back to it over the weekend, though.
48 hours, right? Try
There
it
you
out.
go. If you don't like it, just refund it. You're good to go.
Done.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, that's funny that you say that with wireless chargers. I tried switching over to just wireless charging because I really like the concept, but it's just slower than a wall charger. I've got a couple of 2-amp wall chargers, 2-amp output wall adapters, and wireless charging is 1. So I got spoiled charging faster. So.
Yeah, I mostly just keep one on my desk, but like right now the G2 doesn't have wireless charging because I don't have the Verizon one. So, I mean, these wireless chargers don't really do me any good right now.
Is there an official mod for that? Wireless charging back for the G2?
Well, it's not really for the G2, it's really for anything. Basically, it plugs into your USB back here, then it's a flat thing that goes back here. Put a case on over it.
Okay.
There's one for the S5 too, but it actually goes on a battery underneath the back cover, so I don't know if it'll still be waterproof or not.
Right.
I didn't test it, even though I had one.
Well, yeah, this week new for me, I think it was just apps. I didn't get any new. I got that G-Boom speaker review up.
The tool case.
What's that?
The toolkit.
Yeah, it looks like a toolkit you carry a drill around or something in it. It's a good speaker. Just a battery wouldn't last as long for like taking it on a long trip or something, but just for an afternoon like barbecue or something, it's a good speaker. But yeah, Flexi I've been playing with. I think I mentioned last week Cloud Amps, that app for streaming music and stuff from Box. I got all that set up, and so now I've got all of my music. You can't really see that; it's just going to glare off the thing. But I've got all my music in folders up on Box now because my Google Music 20,000 song limit is used up. But it works really smooth. Cloud Amps is good now that I've actually been playing with it for a little while. I started playing some more with Exposed, just some basic stuff like the tinted status bar tweak. There was something else that I just saw, and I don't remember what it was now. Secret, been playing with Secret. Know that that's on Android.
I forgot about that.
I think we all talked about that last week.
We did.
We started looking through it during the show and got carried away.
Yep. Just because it's fun. But that's been the biggest thing this week was Flexi, and then getting Cloud Amps set up, which is kind of cool. Yeah. It's been kind of a quiet week. I'm with you, Alex. Not a whole ton of new stuff, but yeah, I think it's gonna do it for the Android Headline Show this week. Obviously, you can find us at AndroidHeadlines.com, but also on Twitter at Android Headline without the S, Google Plus, Facebook, wherever you want to get your Android news. Carson, thanks so much for joining us tonight, man. It was a pleasure having you. If you're looking for a new case or you're interested at all in NFC stuff, or even if you're not, go support Click Cases. These guys are really doing some cool stuff. The Kickstarter's still open. That's running for another 20 days. They're almost halfway to goal, but for $30, you get an awesome case that'll protect your phone and let you customize it even more. Launch whatever you want to off 3 buttons on the back of your phone. So go support those guys on their Kickstarter. Help them get this up and running. and get yourself a new case out of it too. That'd be awesome. What else? What else? The podcast. Go download that too, and let us know what you want to hear about. Send us an email. We're here to talk about what you guys want to hear about. It's not just about what we're geeking out about this week. So
Yep, we're on Stitcher, Pocket Cast, iTunes. Should be on TuneIn Radio soon, hopefully. Cross your fingers.
we've been waiting on those guys forever.
Yeah, but we're in all those places. Make sure you subscribe, leave ratings. Helps people find us so that we can get more listeners.
Yeah, awesome. It was definitely a pleasure. Alex, Nick, always fun hanging out. Carson, thanks again, man.
Thank you.